Okay, except the microphone's not pointed to my face. That would really help. Actually, that makes a lot of difference. It's deciding to swing in weird directions, and I'm not quite sure why. Oh, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Vince. I went more live than I expected. Anyway, I'm joined by David Aboussafy and Jason William Lee. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Good morning, or good evening to you. Good morning for us.
Yeah. Yes, you're on the other side of the world. I do forget that. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Now, before we go any further, we're going to be talking about the film The Evil in Us. Would you just like to very quickly say where it's available at the moment? Because you were talking about lots of territories, etc.
Oh, you bet. Evil in Us is available in 30 territories. Most recently, North America. Get it through iTunes and Amazon, as well as physical media retailers like Walmart in North America. Studio Canal has it in the UK, both physical media and video on demand.
Right.
As well as most other places in the world.
Cool. Excellent. Cool. And have you got and what else have you got to just give a shout out about at the moment? What else have you got coming up in terms of people?
The 4th annual Vancouver International Badass Film Festival is taking submissions now for any filmmakers who have new, extreme, short or feature films. The early bird rate at Film Freeway. Just look for Badass.
Cool. And, okay. Do you want to hold that right up against the camera just so that people can see the logo? And I shall flick over.
Yeah. And Film Freeway for submitting short and feature films.
And I have a new short film in that as well.
That's right. Yeah, Downhill with Jack and Jill.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. And then look for my with my partners, a new releasing company, Darkside Releasing, coming to film markets everywhere, starting with the American film market in November.
Okay. And that's called Darkside Releasing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
He's in everything. He does it all.
That's what you need from people. Okay, cool. All right. So, yes, and Craig's just told me that we are broadcasting and people can actually see us. So if you do want to ask questions, Craig is monitoring the comments as usual. If you're new to YouTube, there should be a little commenty thing.
There is a commenty. That's a thing. It's a new thing.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm famous for describing a Camry floaty thingy.
I've heard about that one too.
Yeah, Camry floaty thingy is yes.
Sky Mama.
Yeah. I'm really good at technical terms. Right. Okay. So we're talking. As I say, we're going to talk for Evil in Us. And the first thing David said when we were chatting the other day, we really should thank Paddy Murphy for introducing us in London when we were seeing Kate Shenton's Egomaniac.
Egomaniac, yeah, and the game that Paddy made. Yeah, yes. Fantastic stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Film The Three Don'ts will have its Canadian premiere at the Badass Festival in February.
Yes, yeah, the Three Don'ts will be at Vancouver Badass February, and if you haven't seen it, just go and see the Three Don'ts. It's brilliantly funny. It really is, just ridiculous, and wonderful. Okay, so now where did you meet Paddy first?
Well, he came with a short. I'm blanking on the name of the short. Retribution, yes, to a Badass Film Festival, and met him in Vancouver at the festival.
Right. I feature in Retribution. That's the only reason I can remember it. In fact, I have a poster of it signed immediately behind me.
Reaching for the name of the film.
Yeah, in bright neon pink. Really helps. Yeah. So okay, yeah, So, okay, so that's how we met, and we chatted, and you were telling me about the Evil in Us. So, David, how did you become involved in the Evil in Us?
Well, I was mostly on the financing side. and then with Dalge and Jay and some other films with that. Been kind of involved in smaller and growing ways from about 2006 to the present, both in terms of doing some writing, some production, some financing, and with the Film Fest, and through people we met that way. And this is through, in this case, the producer Dalge Brar.
Right. And did you know Jay before that?
Not before that. Since then, we've worked on, I guess, 3 or 4 projects, including the science fiction one that we're working on now, as well as the shorts Demons in the Dark and Downhill with Jack and Jill.
Right. And
I met him at a bar. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
No.
It's probably true, actually.
This guy's into all sorts of like indie horror. He's like one of the guys in Vancouver. Everybody knows that he's such a great, helpful guy. Like when it comes to like helping people make movies and stuff, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right. And so, David, your title or your credit on this one is executive producer. Can you just explain to me, and you've kind of alluded to the fact it's about financing, what does that actually mean, executive producer?
It depends on each film. I've had films where I'm executive producer where I did a lot of organizing and hiring cast and helping with the story and helping with the financing and production and distribution. Others where it's just one or other things. In this case, probably just directly involved in some of the scenes where we did the newscasting scene where
he's an actor in it as well.
Right? Hired my wife to do some voiceover stuff. Brought my friends and daughters to do in the mansion scene. So in indie productions, it can mean everybody pitches in and does a bit of everything.
Right. What's the part you find most enjoyable of all those multiple roles? What's the part which is the role that you find most enjoyable?
Well, I guess if I heard someone make an analogy where all the financing and pre-production is kind of like massive amounts of foreplay, and then the filming is the act, and then the post-production, the selling, sort of like raising the child. So I would say the actual filming. To use that analogy.
That's the most difficult for sure.
Yeah.
No,
the rubber meets the road.
Yes.
Compared to a years-long process, or sometimes.
So how long was the filming period for The Evil in Us?
Well, we did about, I think, in total 18 days. And I'd say we had about 3 of those were wasted days. But it was an 18-day shoot. Long days. We had one 22-hour day, which was insane. The last day of filming was 22 hours, which is the stupidest thing to do when you're working on boats with animals and kids. It's just all the no's of filmmaking. So we did that all in the last day pretty much. But it was 18 grueling, awesome days. But that was fantastic.
Okay, right. Okay, so, and for you, and a similar sort of question for you, Jay. What part do you find the most enjoyable?
Jeez. To me, it was like almost like a release. Like I thought it was going to be so. It was.
You're fitting with my analogy then. The actual filmmaking is the act.
It is. It was because unfortunately my father passed away like two months before went to production. I thought it was going to be a mess. And it was actually a healing process for me to make the film. I thought it was going to be a complete disaster, but I kind of like bore down, and it was actually a really great experience for me. Like I love filmmaking. I've been a film fanatic my whole life, and to actually see something that I wrote and directed, as many faults that it has, I love the experience of it, and I can't wait to do another one. I've got another one coming up in the New Year, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah, threat, writer with millions of scripts, an actor in some of the Hollywood productions here, director, so a real triple threat.
That's good. You need to. I think this is what you seem to need to do, isn't it? As an actor,
you got to make your own. It's the only reason anybody would hire me is because I make my own movies, and otherwise nobody would hire me. So it's good.
Interesting. I mean, when I first started out, many years back in the 1980s, you were an actor. That's kind of what you did. You probably do filming, you'd work in theatre. If you were working in theatre, you probably did fringe shows, I guess, where you're mucking in, etc. Do you think it has changed? This multitasking thing. If you go on IMDb,
If I would have been doing this even 20 years ago, I'd be rich by now. I haven't, there's no DVD sales. There's no the avenues are way more open for indie filmmakers for sure. Like, because I can get a Red camera or an Alexa and make a film for pretty low budget, but at the same time, you got 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people doing that. So everything's changed, as I'm sure you know. You made one of the most iconic movies, Hellraiser, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day, and I don't think we can make a movie like that for that kind of budget these days. People, it's a different story these days. So.
Yeah, and I was talking to Uwe Boll, who now runs a restaurant here in Vancouver, German director, who was saying the exact same thing, that 15, 20 years ago, first of all, you could get full-on tax credits. People could probably invest and get their tax credits. And then you could make something and you'd have the DVD or even the VHS or broadcast market and make a fair bit of money from it. But nowadays, that's much more challenging with the end of broadcast markets and physical media markets and the buyers in different territories just giving small amounts for.
There's so much content out there. Let's look at Netflix. One thing, you can't stop. There's so much to look at. So it's hard for filmmakers, obviously, to get something noticed. And I think that's why, horror films were a different kind of, because there's a massive horror audience out there in the world, right? That even bad horror, people love it, right?
It's very interesting. I hear this, and I was reading the similar idea this afternoon in an article, and basically there is this idea that horror fans will watch anything. It's not quite true. And I think they are very actually discerning. I think horror fans are very discerning and they're very vociferous about stuff as well. They don't hold back when they say, this is crap, this is rubbish. Once they do love something, they really get behind it. Have you encountered any problems with pirating so far?
Oh, of course, yeah. We're constantly...
Day one, the second that we put it out, it was already pirated, within hours.
The day it came out first in the UK, it was pirated immediately the next day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you look up The Evilness on YouTube, or whatever, it's got 7,000 links to pirated.
They're taken down one by one. But
I don't know who takes them down, but yeah.
But then again, you've got to police that, and if you've got that number, somebody can spend all their time just policing the links and so on.
It's literally impossible. It's a virus, right? It's you cannot stop it these days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well, all right. Well, having gone away from covered that kind of the business side, let's go back. Let's take it back to the very beginning, Jay, because you wrote the script. What was the inspiration for the movie?
I actually had 10 scripts that I'd written that I thought were probably better scripts, but at the same time, I didn't have the budget to get them. They were all probably 500 plus thousand. So we had a smaller investment than that, half of that budget. So I wrote a new script with the idea of trying to write for budget. But I always thought, horror film was easier because we were doing a non-union show. We were doing it with no-name actors, amazing actors, but not people that anybody would, recognize. So I figured, doing a horror movie would be the best idea. So I remember that in 2010 there was this bath salts kind of craze, or that idea. There was that in the news. People actually,
the drug that would eat, people eat their faces off. Yeah.
So this is a true story. People were literally doing this drug and eating other people, which sounds fantastical, but very scary. And I'm like, that's kind of crazy. But I'm also hugely inspired by the 28 Days Later. I thought that was a really, really interesting, awesome movie. So the idea is, behind a drug being put into society, it's been pushed by a government agency. that turns people into rabid cannibals. So that, in a way, isn't that far-fetched, but it is. But I wanted to make it kind of realistic, but at the same time, not like The Walking Dead, as opposed to
But dealing with deeper themes.
Yes.
I don't we were saying before about horror being kind of cheap thrills that people get, but I think horror also confronts maybe deeper themes that people have difficulty dealing with otherwise. So whether you're talking about Get Out, United of the Living Dead, dealing with race. I think Evilness kind of deals a bit with drugs, deals a bit with one of the storylines, sinister right-wing conspiracy that happened before Trump Bannon, and then the police procedural, and really the evil, the darker sides of our id. So I think it can deal with bigger themes in a viscerally exciting film, and I think horror films do that, and maybe don't get enough credit sometimes when they do things like
I've gotten a lot of heat off the internet folks about the political angle at the end. If you listen at the very end, it turns quite political.
Spoilers.
I
should just warn spoilers. Yeah.
But
that was all the 0 and 1 ratings on Rotten Tomato and IMDb before it came out.
Oh yeah,
people one of the alt-right websites got word that there was some kind of, we blamed a sinister, in this case, senator for doing something evil that happened, and all those ratings came out. Usually the ones with poor spelling that hadn't seen the movie.
That's the funniest thing I find when people comment on either the trailer or the movie or this and that. They've obviously never watched it, so they're just commenting off of pure rage, which amazes me. Like, people are that crazy and hateful about something. They get pretty...
The internet these days.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I just want to rewind slightly, Jay, to something you mentioned. You said that you wrote to budget for this script. What was that? How did you, because you got your... How did you, what sort of switch did you have to turn on in your mind to say, okay, now I'm going to do this?
Honestly, like, I was like one location, and it turned out to be like totally the opposite. But I was like, oh, we're going to write something for one location, that can be done in like a week type of thing. But it turned out even crazier. Like, the stuff that we did in this film is bizarre. Like, we lit people on fire. We had like, it was much we had. It was insane that we made it all happen. Like
the boat, the lab,
like I said, the kids, the mansion, the kids, and all this stuff. It's like never ever work on a boat, and that's a true story. We almost lost our entire camera rig because somebody's looking at a spider on the dock, and everybody's like, "Look at that spider! It's the biggest spider you've ever seen." And then everybody walked to the side of the dock, and the whole thing tipped over, and the entire camera came down. It was just a nightmare. But anyways,
and the camera and the spider shot didn't even make the movie.
The spider didn't get in the film.
That's always the way. And you were filming on a red, is that right?
Yeah, that was a red epic.
Yeah. Okay. It's So, I mean, what was the other problem with the boat? Was just basically these things wander around?
No, it wanders around, and you cannot film from it. There's no room. It's a bad idea all around. No light, like we did in the middle of the lake. If you notice a few shots in the film where all of a sudden it goes from like a beautiful shot to like this massive blown out grainy shot, because we had to up the gain 1,000,000 times just to make the boat visible. So it's like, so don't ever shoot on water. Don't do it.
Just I know that I'm just working on my short film, The Night Whispered, and getting it ready to send out to backers and so on. And I was thinking, don't film at night if you can avoid it.
Everything. And the funny thing about the Evilness is it's the biggest learning experience, I think. It was the learning film of my life, because now I know what not to do a lot more. I'm sure I'm going to screw up a whole bunch of stuff in the next one, but I got a lot more information about, okay, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this. So.
How many features have you directed?
I've only directed one feature. I'm working on another. I've directed about 5 short films, and so my next feature is in February. We're shooting, so
that's Funhouse.
It's called Funhouse. Yeah.
Oh, that one's called Funhouse. Okay, yeah, because I know you've
concept for a science fiction one from created by Mark Boyley over here in our office.
Yes, you may have heard him sneeze earlier on.
Yeah. You got some concept for that, and hopefully going forward with that as well.
Right, and that's called Alphamem.
Alphamem, yeah, kind of science
Alphamem.
fiction.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'd realize this, but you happen to, for the trailer that you sent through, you're using exactly the same song as Aliens.
No.
The new Aliens. Certainly in our territory, there may be a different one about a boy, and yours is 6 months old. It came out a lot earlier than Aliens.
Oh, he said the trailer was the Aliens song.
Trailer for Alphamem or for
Alien.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
We were there first.
I had no idea. Well, that's the whole thing. Like, I've written so many scripts.
Ours is better.
True story. Yeah. I wrote scripts that I'm like, oh my God, I keep on getting my stuff stolen. Like, even though I've written it and Disney will come out with like this giant movie, I'm like,
or just same idea, somebody else.
Yeah.
Brilliant minds think alike or something.
It's unbelievable.
It really, funnily enough, IMDb were actually, I think it was on IMDb or YouTube, probably one of my YouTube channels, just saying exactly that. There is such a thing as zeitgeist. There is such a thing as the shared unconsciousness. And that people, the way the zeitgeist works, of course, is the fact that we're all in the same world. And now, of course, you've got so much being shared on the internet. We get this very similar news themes from throughout the world. It inspires people in very similar ways. Yeah, so basically, getting stuff out.
It's theft or synchronicity. Another thing happened with another movie I helped produce is going out to festivals now, American Guinea Pig Song Solomon. We had a poster with a kind of three-pupiled eye, and that was out about 6 months ago, and then that was a big poster for The Mummy.
Yeah.
So it was zeitgeist, synchronicity, or someone saw that poster and thought it was a great idea and used it for that.
Yeah, but it's the classic one is the Armageddon and Deep Impact coming out at the same time. It's like, what do you mean you're going to do a meteorite movie hitting the Earth?
Well, I've actually written a 3D, like, I don't write horror, as like I wrote a 3D animation about Bigfoot. And apparently Sony Imageworks is making a Bigfoot 3D animation movie.
Well, sometimes
I'm kind of mad about that.
That's the studios following whatever they think is popular or will sell. So sometimes you do have that.
Well, I'm hoping I can ride off the coattails of those guys.
Well, that's the other way it works, of course, as well. That actually helps. And to be honest, they've been doing this in publishing for years. Is that in book publishing is like 50 Shades of Grey, huge success. You suddenly see an awful lot of mummy porn with very, very similar covers.
Yeah. Tarantino definitely does that. Like when he came out with Pulp Fiction, there was like a million rip-offs that couldn't quite cut it. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got telling people that, this is popular now, so write a script about this. So,
yeah, because we know there's an audience for it. Therefore, we're going to absolutely. Barry Fay.
It just came out, right? And apparently extremely well received. And you know what I did the other day? I actually started watching the original It,
the TV version.
Yeah, just because I want to go see it in theaters. And but yeah, no, I think horror is going to have a resurgence right now, big time.
Yeah, it is with things like, especially maybe the lower budget, interesting horror that confronts big themes like Get Out. Or It Follows to some degree.
Yeah.
And Barry Fahey just says the same thing happened with Maleficent and Snow White and the Huntsman. And for those of you who don't recognize, Barry was the DOP on The Three Don'ts and Retribution. Yes. Another member of Celtic Badger Media. And I've just been asked to give somebody a quick wave. That's to John Pertwee and Tara. Hi, guys. But also, we've got a question coming from Kim Lehman. Jason and David, who were your biggest inspirations growing up as far as the horror genre? Assuming you were into horror when you were growing up, but who do you think of you?
Yeah, for me, probably John Carpenter and David Cronenberg. I mean, I think some of his quotes, some of that stuff about horror being, especially body horror being films that confront difficult aspects of things that can't be dealt with maybe more directly. And I love this quote of his that I use quite frequently, that we're all mad scientists trying to make experiments in life to solve problems, to fend off madness and chaos. I think I butchered the quote a bit, but yeah, Cronenberg, big for me.
For me, it's the evil The Evil Dead, 100%.
Yeah.
And
Sam Raimi.
Hellraiser, like, which you were in. That's amazing that we're talking to you. Like, movies like that to me, like, are so iconic. I watched The Evil Dead when I was a little kid. Like, I'm talking super young, like 6 years old. I don't know how my parents let me watch that thing. But anyways, it was so terrifying. And now, obviously, watching it's not so terrifying. It's kind of funny. But movies like that. Actually, there was a movie called It's Alive that scared the hell out of me. It's about a demon baby that kind of comes out and like basically terrorizes the neighborhood. But it's so bad, it's good. It was in 1974, the year I was born, I think. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, watch it and have a good laugh. But that terrorized me to this day that I'm afraid of like dolls and stuff like that. So
yeah. Here's a primal emotion that the movies that play on that, I've always been drawn to. The Lovecraft movie.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Very okay. Cool. All right. Thank you for the question, Kim. Very good question. I want to move on to something that we were talking about. One of the first things I said to Jay when we were talking about this the other day is, this is an amazing opening sequence to the movie, and we shared and I just want to share something just so that people know what it is I'm actually talking about. This is right, I have to be very careful where I click on the screen, otherwise I'm going to accidentally end the call or leave the call, and I'm really trying not to. Right, present to everyone. Okay, so this is an image from the title sequence in the movie and in the music video that I shared earlier on just before. How did this come about, Jay? Whose idea was it to do this?
It was actually my idea. I was like, I really wanted to open, and I wanted to open with a bang. Like, I love title sequences. I do. And I wanted to have something that was totally unique. Originally, the idea was to have like 2 minutes of just her face coming out of the blood.
Right.
So we built, but that turned out boring. I tried it, and I'm like, oh, this is really dragging on. So what I did is film the entire sequence, like have had Tira doing a bunch of different movements in the water. Obviously, it's all slow motion on super like high end.
That was the actress Tira Marie Dent, who also stars in the short film Demons in the Dark.
That's right, amazing talent. But we had her just kind of. The funny thing was we built that tub in Mike's backyard, and it's literally about 4 feet by 3 feet. And it looks like she's in a pool of blood, but if you look at some of the behind the scenes pictures, it's kind of like the most budget tub.
Well, I'm just going to screen share that particular. Yeah, this is
that's what it looks like, but this is what you have to do. It's like the Robert Rodriguez film school, man.
Okay, so this is the tub that you built, and it was like 4 feet by 3 feet, you reckon? And then this is with some. I'm just going to change.
That's 5 by 4 feet, I think it was.
5 by 4 feet. Okay, this is what it looked like, kind of with blood in it.
Then we had to like fill it with garbage bags, so because we didn't have enough blood materials. There you go.
There you are.
So yeah, we had those 3 bags were like filled with water, so we could displace the actual blood and make it come up and be a little bit thicker. So yeah,
right.
It was hilarious. Oh, she is.
Yeah, there she is.
That was the scariest day of my life because Tira, like I said, she came up from doing the first dive and she's like, I'm like, put some wax in your nose so you don't swallow anything. She's like, no, I'm fine. And no, it was horrible. She inhaled a bunch of that stuff and it was like, oh, she's going to die and this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
She made it.
How long did it take to film that sequence?
8 hours.
Wow,
I'd say.
That's a long day. And was the natural actor question immediately? I'm thinking, was the water warm or cold, or was the studio warm or cold?
it got cold, and yeah, she was freezing, and yeah, it never like anytime you're doing any visual effects like that, you think it's gonna be easy and fast. It's slow and hard. Like it took us 3 hours to make the blood and like with all the materials and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's never easy. It's always fun, but you know.
You have to be careful with old blood because you can get bacteria in it, so you want
Exactly.
to keep it fresh.
I'm surprised that everybody survived, but we did.
I'm presuming this was a made-up blood.
Yeah, no. It was, but
even all the sugar, that bacteria.
Yeah,
so
no.
you don't want people ingesting 8-hour-old blood.
No.
Absolutely. It wasn't actual real blood, was it?
No.
Oh.
No. No. We'll yes, absolutely, definitely. Please don't use real blood for this kind of thing.
Exactly.
Coffee and food coloring and syrup and so on makes a really good blood, actually. And just make your own blood at home. Something to do at home, children.
We've done it before, and like it's a science. It really is. Like I tried to do it myself, and it turned out horrible. But you need professionals for this sort of thing.
Yeah, it is. Had you worked with the guys you were working with before on the crew, or was this a new crew?
Funny thing is,
well, on the short, some of them.
The Evilness, we decided like they didn't trust me as a director, so they're like, we're gonna make you do a short film before we do the feature film, just so you can prove yourself. So we did Demons in the Dark as like a absolute test. The entire crew came on.
Award-winning short film.
And it was, it turned out it's my favorite thing I've ever made personally. I think for me it has a lot more meaning. It's much more of an artsy film. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. Demons in the Dark. It's on Screamfest. Put it on their website. And the amazing Tira Dent, who I'm working with on another show soon, who was the title sequence, the model in the title sequence. She is the star of that show, and she's absolutely amazing. Yeah, in that, it's good.
Okay, well, if you send me a link to it, I'll make sure it's on the YouTube so people can.
It's a great show. Like it's 23 minutes, so it's a little bit of a watch, but like people don't have,
That's interesting. Did you struggle to keep it to 23 minutes?
It was actually a 15-page script, which is crazy. It turned into 23 minutes somehow. Because there's a lot of like drawn out. It's very tension filled, and like it's a poetic film. Like if you watch it, it's all about poetry. I'm a little bit. I like to write poetry. Like my other film, Down the Hill with Jack and Jill, is all in poetry,
in verse. Yeah.
So I enjoy doing that sort of thing every once in a while.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's the only other film I've not actually seen it. There is a film script by the poet Dylan Thomas.
Was that right?
Written in verse, all about Burke and Hare, the grave robbers. And it's a wonderful. If you get hold of it, I've got it around here somewhere. It's a really interesting read, and it's written in verse.
Oh, that's good. Well, yeah, no. In the Demons in the Dark, it's all about this beautiful demon who tortures this guy who treats her wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of a rape revenge kind of film.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird like a superhero film, but in a twisted kind of way.
Okay, all right. I shall make sure I check that out. It sounds absolutely fascinating. I shall and encourage other people to check it out as well. Oh, brilliant. Okay, you talked about locations and finding locations. How did you find the locations?
Oh, that was
the cabin, the lab, the apartment for the bloodbath at the beginning.
That was all just like me and my buddy Mike just drove around probably 5,000 miles in this town, like in and around Vancouver, like literally driving down places, finding places. The cabin was, it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's in Pitt Meadows. And this guy, Richard, he has a compound out there that he just has a bunch of old, it was like the house that he built in the 1970s. And he just left it there, abandoned. And he's probably the greatest person to ever shoot a film with, because he's like, do whatever you want, build whatever you want. We built new doors, we filled it with blood. Like, the guy was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
So were the interiors part of the cabin?
What's that?
Were the interiors part of the cabin?
Yeah. The interiors are all there. And we did all the filming in and around that area as well. But we married, like, you'll notice we're on like a island, we say in the movie, but we're in the middle of an actual, not near an island, but then we married it to another lake with the dock and all that stuff. So it's all movie magic.
It's very convincing.
Forests look a lot bigger too.
Yeah, exactly. We were just having them running back and forth, like, okay, that looks like a different tree, you know.
That's the great thing with forests.
Yeah,
you can do that with forests. That you can work in a very small area.
Like 5 feet away from the cabin, or like, this looks like the middle. It does. It looks like the middle of nowhere, right?
Right. And
green screen. The laboratory was where?
It's called the Moly Building. It's in. I think that was in Burnaby or something. Yeah.
And what is it? What is that? What is the laboratory and the test subject cells?
It was like I think they manufactured batteries or something like this. It's just this massive warehouse, and it had all these different weird areas, and that, you know, we used it as like
those observation rooms with the windows were there. Right?
They were there. Just I'm like, this is perfect for this sort of thing, even though it kind of looks, you know, you can notice on the walls that we painted over like the light switches and stuff like that. If you look closely, it's like,
So is no longer in use, or?
No, they shoot there all the time. Like, it's Vancouver, so like it's one of the most shot in places in the world, I think. Right. I've actually noticed a lot of the places we like the movie The Evil in Us, the cabin that we shot in is the same cabin they use for the Twilight movies, with the huge Twilight movies. So yeah, the Wolves cabin that they go into is the same one that we were using.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
cool.
100%.
Oh, wow. Kim Lehman's asking about festivals and horror conventions. Now, The Evil in Us basically has done its festival run. Is that right?
Yeah, I was at Fright Fest last year, and Sitka's and Badass Film Festival and many other places.
Yeah, no, we've done 5 film festivals, and now we're pretty much just got released in the United States. So yeah.
How we were talking about getting attention, and sorry, how important is it, the film festival run, to helping promote the movie?
I think well, for me personally, it was the biggest thing in the world, because our film was featured in Sitges Film Festival in Spain, which is one of the premier horror festivals in the world. Our distributor Raven Banner got us in there, I think. But on the strength of that, we have a new investor that came in who saw the movie in Sitges, and it's like, that's Funhouse. So we're doing Funhouse now on the basis of somebody saw The Evil in Us. So it's kind of a stepping stone towards bigger things, I guess.
Yeah, national film, they sell more at the film markets like AFM or Cannes, or I guess the European film market in Berlin. But the festivals, especially the well-known ones, seem to build credibility and buzz and press and that kind of thing.
Okay.
That Islam Sultan will be at Sitges this year.
Yeah, it's all about like just trying to get stuff out there that people notice, and then maybe you can make another movie that stepping stones, I guess.
Yeah. I was like Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal. I go to that one every year, and they have a film market associated with that one that's specific to genre films. So that's one of my favorite as both a fan and filmmaker and a producer distributor to go to.
Right. And so, what was you said? You've got another film at Sitges this year?
Yeah. That's Stephen Burrows' American Guinea Pig Song of Solomon. and that's playing. I think they're on a night with they're doing a Romero retrospective and having an Argento film showing. So he's excited about that one, and that's also got accepted to 2 other festivals. And the other one's going to the festival circuit is a director, Liz Ganster, Ayla. That's for out and 2 other festivals so far as well. So 2 features are going out to festivals right now.
Brilliant, brilliant. And of course, it's not a cheap process, submitting to festivals and so on.
It's unfortunate. Everything costs money in the film business. It's brutal.
It really is. What sort and obviously it's a lot more expensive for feature films than it is for short films. What sort of percentage of your budget do you look at for saying, okay, we need to have this amount just to put into film festivals?
Yeah, that's a different question, and that's part of the reason that we, with my partners Vince D'Amato, Will Carney, and Nikki Hancock, have founded Darkside Releasing to kind of cut some of the middleman costs out of that a little bit. And especially with the margins so tight and hard to get any money back, as a way of avoiding that. And it kind of depends on different films. Really low budget films, sometimes it's the marketing and the everything else can dwarf the production costs. In the case of one we're working on now, a €2 million budget, which is far surpassing anything else I've worked with. We've got about 25% for marketing afterwards, but that's we've got a big German co-producer that's taking that on.
Right.
So it's anywhere in the same ballpark with Evelyn's. But when you give it to another distributor, they take those costs on and hopefully eventually report and pay the filmmakers.
Yeah, no, I think that unfortunately marketing is more important these days than the budget for the film. Like if you spend $500,000 on the budget, I think you got to spend 3 times that if you want to actually get that film seen somewhere. Unless you have an absolute killer movie that just has to be seen, right? But those are few
even in those cases, unless you're in a really vertically integrated studio system that's going to get it into the theater.
Yeah.
Like one example might be It Follows, a great film, about $1 million budget, but then $1 million of marketing on top of that.
Mm. Yeah,
that's the thing I never realized, like before getting into film, is like the process of selling your film is much more daunting than making the film, unfortunately. The making of a film is the best part, but then you made a film, and then you gotta figure out how to get it to people, and that's the hardest part, I think.
That's very interesting. Paddy Murphy, who you were mentioning at the top of the show, has got a couple of in fact, he's just put in another one. 2 moments. Okay, so Paddy says, so sorry for the delay in getting on. My internet is being very Irish today. Much love, David, my hero, and nice to see you for the first time, Jason. How important was distribution for you guys? I'm going to reinterpret. The question is, how important was distribution for you guys with The Evil in Us, by which I think he means, are you doing the distribution yourself, or is there another company doing the distribution?
No, that's Raven Banner, a Canadian-based leasing company. Has a good reputation in horror films like Autopsy of Jane Doe and so forth, and certainly getting the deals in different countries with for example, with formerly Image Entertainment in the US. They were very helpful in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was very important. They got us definitely seen a lot of places. Like they put us out there. They were in Cannes. We met them in Cannes when we went there to try and sell our film, and they've been there for the last couple of years selling it and all over the world. And so we're in about 30 countries, and obviously we couldn't have done that on our own. So yeah, I think distribution is extremely important when it comes, to get it out there. Next film, I would like to try and do more of for ourselves, but because once you're going down a middleman, you got like so many tiers that you gotta
and you can build in though. I mean, if you have pre-sales through a distributor like Darkside Releasing, then you could get it could trigger some early tax credits or other things with telefilm or other funding that comes in, so you can build in the distribution and the pre-sales with the funding, and hopefully that's one way to some economies of scale there. So
it's very interesting. And Paddy has another question. What kind of films is Darkside Releasing looking to put out? Explicitly horror films, or also, I don't know, Irish dark comedy, neo-noir, ultra-violent type films? Possibly? Hashtag taking the piss.
Yeah, it's come across the desk to Vince and Will, this Three Don'ts film is making a Canadian premiere at the Badass Festival. Certainly, extreme films that are interesting, that might have some marketability. Yeah. That would be. We'll consider the Three Don'ts, if that's what he's asking obliquely.
No, there was nothing oblique about that in the slightest.
He's always got a distributor, no problem.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting question, David. Though, with that hat on, in terms of taking on distribution, how do you approach that? You think, hey, I love this film. Not talking about the Three Don'ts, I'm speaking hypothetically. If you love a film, but you hand on your heart can say, I don't know how to market this, or how do I approach this? What kind of goes through your mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. Part of it is, I guess, we're looking up. The other part is kind of created a vehicle so we could distribute the films that we were, in two of the cases, had written and are producing. Just because some had experiences with not Raven Banner, but other distributors that weren't so positive in terms of reporting or paying back to the filmmakers, or even marketing for the marketing fees that were charged. And so it was a way to kind of take control of that, as well as to also add other films that we love, that we saw a way of marketing together with our first slate of about a dozen films that will be presenting to buyers, starting with the American film market in November. So basically our films plus the ones we really love as a starting point, to see if it's also, we can also do it in a financially worthwhile way. So a 2-year run to see if we can do it in a way that both doesn't charge filmmakers outrageous marketing fees for not doing much marketing, more filmmaker friendly rates and that kind of thing, being able to report it and do things in a more streamlined way.
Yeah.
And as we're taking on new projects from the beginning, being involved both with the financing and sort of a bit of a pre-sale model. Probably we'll start that in the first year. Probably be able to do that in the second year.
Right. Okay. It's a fascinating. I will, once you're up and running, and after about 6 months or so, I'd love to have you back on, David, just to talk about distribution and that side of the business. Because
and again, I'm probably an expert. I'm just from a little bit of hard-won experience, and then with the probably Vincent will have more, probably 15 years of experience with the buyers and the film markets, and they would be good guys to speak to, especially maybe in November.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you get the American film market out the way. And I remember you mentioning that. Sorry, Jay, you mentioned the other day the song for the opening. You met the gentleman at the American film market last year or the year before?
We were in AFM and we were in Santa Monica, and we went to a bar called Harvell's. It's this crazy blues bar.
Everything begins in bars. It's great.
Exactly. And I was listening to this song. And it was a guy called Toledo. He's this amazing artist, and it's like this burlesque show. He's kind of like singing. It's very like bluesy and whatnot. And I'm listening. I'm like, oh, dude, I have to get this song for The Evil in Us. And I just started talking to him and his band after they finished their set, and I'm like, it was one of those things where like they thought it was just a joke, and like, I want that song. It's so great. And then we actually paid them to get in the studio and go and record that song. They've never recorded it before. It's just live all the time. And so it's called Big Beast Eat Little Beast. And so we had them record it, and I'm just like, I loved it. I loved it so much. I put it in the opening credit sequence. Yeah, so it's great.
Well, funny enough, Kelly Rawn has just said absolutely loving the soundtrack on the film so far.
Yeah.
Is it going to be available for purchase separately?
What's that?
Sorry. Kim Lehman says absolutely loving the soundtrack on the film so far. Is it going to be available for purchase separately?
Honestly, I want to. Like, that was the original thing. Like, everything in there is either original or some of the stuff is bought off of Audio Network, but there's a few tracks in there that are by local bands, and the one I said by Toledo in Santa Monica. But I have another friend who is like has 4 tracks in that film that are amazing. They broke up as a band, but throughout I used it in a lot of my movies. I'm gonna use it in every film that I have. I love this one song. It's called I can't remember the song. Anyways, but no, the soundtrack was very, very important to me. Like I love music. I think music is hugely important. And I'm gonna try and get a soundtrack for the film for sure.
Yeah, and my apologies to Kelly. It was Kelly who asked the question about the soundtrack. Kim Langman was asking, Jason and David, if you write a script, what is the best way to get it made into a film? Now, there's the $20,000 question.
Well, I've been writing scripts since I did a spec script as a teenager for Star Trek Next Generation. And after about 20 years of not, I found the best way is make the damn film yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think my, honestly, The Evilness was my 11th script that I wrote. And the reason I wrote it is because we didn't have the budget to make any of those other 10 ones, because some of them were like $100 million, like take place on another planet, which is great. Like, never stop writing. But at the same time, if you want to get your stuff these days, unless you're the greatest writer in the world, you're going to have to make your own stuff.
Yeah. And
to get your stuff noticed. And you can.
Yeah.
So I would say write for budget, write a small contained script at first and try and get it made.
Great example would be Will Carney's Numa, which is Darkside Releasing is going to put out. It's kind of almost a two-hander, a psychologist and a client, and the great small film. Great example of something that you could produce very
but never stop. Like, write everything you want to write. Like, my favorite script is like $100 million budget script, which one day I'm hoping maybe down the road will get made, but
studios aren't financing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's financing the sequel.
Such a difficult thing. So I would say, like, keep writing, write stuff that you can actually maybe get filmed. Find some friends, film it. Like,
make it yourself.
Technology these days, you can literally film a movie on your phone if you wanted to and you had to, for like $5. I'd say most of the movies that I made are almost $0. Just people that are interested in making a movie.
For the writer who was asking, I mean, you can certainly workshop scripts, get a lot of feedback.
Of
you could submit them. You could submit them to contests, get feedback with that, have readings from that. But yeah, keep writing, keep showing it to people, keep developing it, then make something yourself.
It's very interesting. I was at a friend's birthday. Funnily enough, Kate Shenton's, who wrote and directed Egomaniac, David. I was at a birthday party last night and was talking to her and another friend of ours, Andy, who's also a screenwriter, and they'd done a script swap. So they're both filmmakers. They're both written feature films. And he's saying, rather than paying for feedback or something like that, just swap it with another filmmaker. And as a way of getting very honest and experience in their case, because they've both made feature films already, getting some very useful feedback on what it was they were doing. And funnily enough, coming right back to earlier on, they both discovered they'd written more or less the same scene. They had a character in exactly the same situation. Completely no idea what the other was writing beforehand. So it does, it does happen. Okay, well, we're coming towards the end of the show. One of the things I did want to ask you about is Alphamem, which, yes,
the creator right here, Mark Boyley created that.
Yes. Hi, Mark.
He's waving from behind the. Yeah, that's the science fiction feature that created by Mark, co-written by Jay and myself. They're co-directing. I've got about a 10.5-minute proof of concept that we've released as a short for some festivals, and we're looking to more of it. Oh, here's Mark peering in from the side. Mark.
Hi, Mark.
He also co-directs the Badass Film Festival and is a world-famous nude photographer.
Yes, he is. He's got he's a fantastic photographer. You should check it out.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, that's more of a near future thriller.
Right.
2033 people come dependent on neural implants. Something happens, they're all shorted out. So it's kind of like a violent battle to rediscover identity and humanity. And there's lots of sex in it too.
Yeah, sex and violence and memory implants and end of the world kind of stuff.
And Tristan Risk in the proof of concept.
Yeah. You betcha. Yeah.
She kills me. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
That
she's a Vancouver icon and and she's the star of one of the stars of the Isla that's going around festivals right now. The feature.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to. I did back it.
And I think she did a very famous episode of your show.
Yes. She did a very, very famous episode, the one I always quote when people ask me, what can I get away with? Almost anything after that. Yes. It's cool. Right. So I'm just quickly going through my questions. Yes. Yeah. Okay. We're coming to the end of the show. So, we've mentioned Alphamem. What else are you guys working on at the moment?
Yeah, there's a bigger production, Sherlock Holmes versus Frankenstein, directed by Gauthier Cazenave, who did House of VHS that I helped produce, and I'll just put out in Darkside Releasing. And that's the bigger budget film that I referenced earlier. It's filmed partly and mostly in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. No, I have a TV pilot we're shooting in October called The High Five. It's about 5 friends who start a weed dispensary. So I'm actually quite excited to do something that's not horror, but at the same, I love every genre, but this is like total comedy.
And that's with Dave Peniak, who appears in Evil List.
He's in the Evil List. And then I'm doing Funhouse, which is going to make the Evil List look like a Disney movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. It's kind of like Saw meets that TV show Big Brother.
Right.
And it's not a remake of Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse.
No, it's completely very different. Very different. Yeah. So Funhouse we're shooting in February, and hopefully we'll be releasing late 2018. Hopefully.
Right. This sounds. I look forward to. Well, we'll have you back on to talk about Funhouse, obviously.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's like I disturbed myself writing.
Just so you're aware, my earphone dropped out, so I missed. I was getting so excited by Funhouse, my earphone.
Oh no. Yeah. Like I said, I disturbed. Like I'm worried to put it out there because it's pretty twisted, but at the same time, so is Hellraiser.
Hellraiser is a nice, quiet family drama.
Yeah.
Okay, with zombies.
I was saying, let's have a quick talk about the fact that you've been in like 2 of my favorite old movies, Night Breed and Hellraiser. Great movies.
Thank you very much.
Box of Monsters sounded intriguing when you were talking to me. And
Book of Monsters.
Book of Monsters, sorry.
Yes, Book of Monsters. Yeah, that is very good. But
how did you get yourself into horror movies? Like,
how did I get myself into horror movies? I mean, apologies for, folks, if you've heard these stories before, I do apologize. But basically, through the Marx Brothers movies, is in one sense, because basically in the UK, they used to show the Marx Brothers late at night on Fridays, and they showed them week after week after week. And we never had any magazines that told us what were coming on. And then we sat down to watch a Marx Brothers movie and it was, I think it was Frankenstein. I think it was the Universal black and white Frankenstein. I'd have been in my early teens and just looked at Mum and said, "Is it okay to watch this? Looks really interesting." I mean, I was already a weird kid. I read ghost stories and did all that stuff. So I was absolutely fascinated.
Film's weird.
No,
weird.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, just was lucky enough to meet this guy called Clive Barker,
Oh,
um,
wow.
who, after I'd left drama school and met him at a party one night, and about 3 years later, we became really good friends. And then 3 years later, he said, we're making this movie. Would you like to be in it? There is some makeup involved.
Just a little bit.
I was wondering how long how many hours was that?
It was actually not too bad. I mean, the smart answer I've started giving recently, which you'll appreciate, is that, and we didn't talk about the VFX that you have in your movie, because I'm watching somebody having their entire face and head covered with
Yeah.
SFX makeup. It's basically 3 months, because if you take it all the way back to when the head cast was done and the body cast for the costume, etc., and all the work that goes into it beforehand. But actually on the day, and apart from the fact I couldn't hear, speak, or see when I was wearing it, it took about an hour into makeup and costume.
That's it?
Yeah, because it wasn't stuck to my face. It was unlike Doug. I mean, Doug was 4 or 5 hours, but myself and Simon Bamford, who played Butterball, these were pullover masks. I mean, Simon had exactly the same problems. He couldn't hear, speak, and see when he was wearing that. But because he had sunglasses on for Butterball, once they'd done the shot where he takes the glasses off, and they said that he basically got his finger and poked himself eye holes for the rest of the movie, so that he could do that. Obviously, I couldn't do that with Chatterer, but yeah. So basically, the way that Chatterer got put on is that they put the plastic teeth in my mouth with Denti-Grip, which made me go salivate all the time, and going those. And then they cut up condoms. And they stuck those to the plastic teeth and then the inside of the mask to represent gums. And then they squirted KY jelly around my face too.
Again with the analogy.
Yeah, exactly.
From the beginning.
Condom.
Yeah, so basically, whenever I complained about going through all this stuff, Clive always just looked at me and just said, "Nick, you shouldn't have joined if you couldn't take a joke."
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said when you had all the burn mask on?
Oh, dude. Trust me, yeah, that was a nightmare in itself.
Because how long did it take to put that on? There is a, for those who don't know,
I think it was a couple hours for that one for sure. That was Michelle Grady.
Yeah, I think I sent a behind the scenes photo of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was super impressed by our blood effects for sure. It's very difficult for sure to make that look real. Yeah.
It is to do with the acting. And,
yeah.
And people ask me, saying, people are very kind about the performance, and I was saying, listen, every physical movement was basically, that was all I could do when I was in makeup and costume. Somebody said it was a very controlled performance. I was like, yeah, I couldn't move. I couldn't. I knew I could walk forward. I could lift my arms to about that height, so that I could put them in Ashley's face. The reason I have my hand on the back of Ashley's head and behind her neck is so I can work out what it is I'm doing and where her mouth is likely to be. So I've got some, that's why I'm holding the back of her, because otherwise there's no way I could. And Ashley is the person who really sells that, because if I were in that situation, I'd probably be keeping my mouth really closed tight in that situation. But she manages to, to sell the scream, and that he's, it's all to do with the editing and the cutting and so on. So yeah, when you're doing that kind of thing, it is all to do with the physicality of the performance.
It's hard.
Yeah, that's fun. It was so much nicer to do Kinski and Nightbreed. That was 5 hours makeup. That was 7 pieces on the face. And
you've had a lot of crazy stuff done to you, haven't you?
Yeah, and it still happens. Okay.
I actually, like I was saying to you the other day, I was like, that Nightbreed character that you played, that was always iconic to me. I was like very terrified of that when I was a kid. when I watched that the first time. Yeah.
It's because he is the nice guy. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
He starts out, obviously you're scared of him, but then he becomes a good guy. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, that is one of the things that I became very conscious of when I was doing. I mean, obviously, particularly with Nightbreed and so on. And funnily enough, I'll wind back to Chatterer and the fact that next weekend, people will actually be able to get hold of the volume 2 of Hellraiser anthology.
right.
Where they're publishing the short story I have written, which is my explanation as to why a boy ended up in hell and became the Chatterer.
Do you think that they're gonna do let's face it, they're gonna do a remake? Are they?
Clive is all I know is, which is more or less the same as the internet knows. Clive has written the script.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a reboot of Hellraiser. Now, whether or not somebody wants to give him a lot of money, it comes back to what you were saying earlier on, Jay, to make something like that now, because I mean, our original budget was $900,000.
To me, though, it's such an iconic movie that I would assume, I would be like, absolutely, you guys are gonna get $5 million, $10 million, whatever you want to do to make it.
I think to be and I don't want to talk. Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's to do with the sequels. I think a lot of it, and the people who own it, and I completely respect people trying to make money and so on. I think they made a lot of not very good films in the Hellraiser franchise. People are therefore still wanting to see a really good. They want Clive involved.
If you guys need me to write it, I'll do it.
What does I say? It's written. I mean, Clive has written it.
Hellraiser reboot.
Yeah. And trust me, I have nothing to do with this. I have no influence on this whatsoever.
Talk to Clive for me if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to. I think 30 years on, we're still talking about it. 30 years on, I'm going to a number of places to talk about it again. People still love the original movie, and I still meet young people, which to me I find extraordinary, is that it keeps on getting new generations of fans. But it comes back. It's not just the effects and those wonderful character designs. They are very, very strange. And there's the whole section.
I apologize. I mentioned Clive, but I know he passed away recently, so I just want to say sorry about throwing that out there.
Clive Barker?
Yeah.
How recent? It's the first I've heard that Clive's passed away.
I haven't heard that.
Didn't you tell?
No, no.
Don't say things like that.
Not that I've heard of myself.
Mark screwed me over. He's like,
that,
he's passed away. I'm like,
we lost a lot of folks recently.
Exactly.
Like
no,
Cooper and,
not
George Romero and Wes Craven.
Oh my God. Anyways, so I take back my take back because.
And I apologize.
Yes, okay. I was going to say.
I threw up to Clive.
Frantic signals from behind.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man.
No. As Mark Twain says, famously quoted, rumors of my passing are greatly exaggerated. Clive is still with us, still writing and still painting and still doing stuff. So yeah. Don't do that. Moving on. There was another question. I think I think hopefully one day we will see something. I think it's ripe for it. It is, 30 years on, people are still interested. You still get new people coming up to the table, young people who've seen it for the first time. And I've just got a message from Craig saying, frantic Googling shows Clive is alive and well.
Anyway, yeah.
You were double late last night, but
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a major screw up. Yeah.
That's okay. We did well up until that point, and it's fine.
Yeah, it was going smooth.
Yeah.
But off the tracks.
No, it's fine.
Mark's fault.
Fix the problem.
Cool. All right then. We are well over our. Well, we're 10 minutes past our hour. So that I look forward to hearing more about Funhouse and perhaps meeting you guys in person again. Well, David, I've obviously met in person to begin with. Hopefully, I'll get across to Canada.
Vancouver. We'll take
Yeah. Oh God, I've got so many friends in Vancouver. It is ridiculous. I don't. I keep on trying to think. I should need to make some more effort to actually get to that part of the world, and I should just go along for a week and hang out with a whole load of people. And around a film festival or something. That would be very, very cool. All right then. Okay, so I got to wind this down. Just before we say goodbye, I would just like to do some shout outs for myself and just say this is the last show until November. It was like a 6-week gap. Obviously I do try and do these weekly, but with stuff that's coming up and stuff I'm working on at the moment, and basically October, I'm away every weekend at various places, including, and just all over the place. I just wanted to give shout outs and to say, if you would like to meet me in person, I'm going to be at Monster Mania in Hunt Valley in Maryland, and Famous Monsters Halloween Convention in San Jose, going to be Huddersfield Haunting, Sheffield Celluloid Screams, and Days of the Dead in Chicago. There are at least one, possibly more others that I'm just waiting for it to be put out there before I can announce. So hopefully I'll get to see a lot of you guys at these conventions to help me celebrate, help us celebrate, because I'll be with most of my Cenobite buddies are going to be at these things to celebrate 30 years of Hellraiser, and I will hopefully see you again all in November. Gentlemen, thank you. And David and Jay.
Thank you so much. It was awesome talking to you.
Good. Absolutely. All right. Then, well, this has been Chattering with Nicholas Vince. I have been talking with David and Jay about the film The Evil in Us, which is now available in 30 territories on iTunes, on Amazon. I'll put links on the YouTube. Please check it out. It's a really, really interesting, intelligent horror movie. And see you guys soon.